everyone, and welcome to our next video in the video series of Hot Torah, where we eat hotter and hotter hot wings, sort of. These are vegan chicken, and we talk about the Torah portion of the week. This week's Torah portion is Vayetzei, and I am joined by my guest, Bill Freedman, the president of Northern Hills Synagogue.
And a willing volunteer, I might add.
Well, yes, you are not here under any coercion.
There's no coercion involved. I'm not getting paid a thin dime.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. This video series is based off of a YouTube channel called Hot Ones, and I will be linking the video link to their YouTube channel below. All right.
Good.
All right. So here's how it's going to work. In front of us, we have 6 pieces of vegan chicken imitation, and we also have the 6 hot sauces that we will be eating in front of us. Each one is a little bit hotter than the one before. We have some regular milk, we have some bread, we've got napkins, and we have some trash cans back behind us. I also...
For when we get violently ill.
Yes. I have also provided you with some Northern Hills chapstick.
Complete with the Northern Hills logo on it. This is hard to beat. You don't see this every day.
Nope, and I just ordered 150 more, so we have...
So there are 150 of you out there who, for the right price, can join us.
$0.
$0.
All right, well, shall we?
Shall we?
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question, and after I ask you a question, we're going to take a bite of the...
We have to suffer first. I mean, we have to eat first. Then we hear the answer.
And the question.
And the question.
Eat first,
okay.
Question, answer. Yeah, all right. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a bite. So before we begin,
let's tell everyone what it is that we are consuming here.
And everything here is kosher. So this is rib rack barbecue sauce, hot cayenne. All right.
All right.
It says it's time to spice things up. Real food for real cooking.
With vegan chicken, what more can you ask? Yes. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Jacob works for a total of 14 years to get what he most desires, to be married to Rachel, a desire which ended up changing the future of the Jewish people for the better. In 2018, you were honored for your work with Create Your Jewish Legacy. In a Jewish Federation of Cincinnati article, it is written, throughout the past year, Freedman volunteered significantly more time to the Jewish Federation to help complete a thorough year-long review of over 75 restricted and unrestricted endowments, some dating back to the late 1800s. Can you tell us about some of the interesting information you found from the late 19th century?
What's fascinating about looking at documents that date back almost 100 years is, first, how little things have changed, and second, how much things have changed. Just as in the case of Jacob's life, which went from a pastoral, fairly innocuous and fairly isolated life to becoming the founder of the Jewish people, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, you wouldn't know that World War I had broken out. Yet, you do get a sense of a community that was undergoing some significant concerns, that dealing with a whole and expanding variety of Jewish expression was becoming increasingly, and not only an issue, but an opportunity. And in that regard, it's not unlike the times we face today, where although we've advanced 100 years, many of our concerns are very much the same. And in fact, on any number of occasions, I was able to match a late 19th century restricted fund agreement with a 1980s era restricted fund agreement with virtually the same purposes. Now, it was clear that obviously these people didn't talk with one another.
Sure.
Nevertheless, the concerns about Jewish identity, about Jewish experience, and about Jewish continuity were exactly the same.
Wow.
So, now true, the kinds of donors have changed.
Sure.
You see very few references to women, yet the number of women who are referenced as soon as 30 years later changes dramatically. By the 1930s, women were clearly empowered and were significant contributors to the success of our Jewish community.
Sure. Well, by the 1930s, they've got the vote.
They've got the vote.
They're working.
They are working and they're organized.
Yeah.
Business. Virtually all of the donors in the late 1800s, businessmen and attorneys. By the time we roll forward into the 1970s and 1980s, the scope of what people are doing dramatically has expanded. Now, interestingly enough, lawyers and businessmen are still, business people are among the significant donors, but so are real estate developers and entrepreneurs of all different kinds, and people who just simply care about Jewish survival, and more than Jewish survival, about Jewish prosperity in both the cultural and intellectually.
All right, so this next hot sauce is Sriracha.
Familiar to many of us.
Yes, exactly.
You notice we are taking very small portions. We are not fools. We know what's coming. We see what's coming. Ready? Very different in character than sauce number one. Far less sweet.
Yeah.
Far more pungent.
Yeah.
Significantly hotter, everyone, and we are only at number 2.
So just this past August, you were named one of the best lawyers in Cincinnati in the 2020 edition of the Best Lawyers in America, even though you retired a couple years ago. So do you feel like you are working more now than you did when you were in practice?
That's a very interesting question. What has happened is that the proportions of professional endeavor to volunteer endeavor have changed, but the total amount of time does not seem to have changed at all. My original intent was indeed to have retired 2 years ago, but my law firm said, "Do you think you could hang on and work part-time?" What was I going to say? I said, of course I'm going to do that. I still find myself heavily involved in community activities because it's fun, it's rewarding. I get the pleasure of working with absolutely fantastic people, and everyone Rabbi Schapera is in that group.
Thank you.
It's true, and it's so rewarding from a volunteer standpoint to have the pleasure of working with Rabbi Schapera.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you. Should we move on to the next one?
Let's move on to the next one.
All right, so this is Melinda's ghost pepper sauce.
Will this turn us into wraith-like ghosts? What do you think?
We might wish that our
wish.
mouths were a little ghost-like.
That's correct.
All
I will
right.
tell you the burning sensation has not worn off from number 2. Oh my, don't want this piece to run away. Very interesting. With a significant post-chew burn to it.
Uh-oh, I haven't gotten there yet.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Your turn is coming.
In this week's Torah portion, as well as in last week's Torah portion, oh, there it is.
Now you see.
Oh, I feel it. So last week's Torah portion told, Jacob stealthily runs away from his current situation. My mouth hurts.
See?
First, he runs away from his angry brother Esau, and then he runs away from his father-in-law / uncle Lavan. If you were going to stealthily run away from your home, how would you do it?
You know, it's very difficult to do anything stealthy when you have lots of friends and lots of places to visit and see. If I were going to try and do it stealthily, I think stealth would be, rather than physical, it would be more in terms of disinformation. How could I present my travails and or travels in such a way that it would be immediately accepted on its surface without realizing the underlying cause. Now, of course, that part of that then complicates Jacob's life for the rest of his life. Having learned how to dissemble once, unfortunately, he continues to do so.
Yeah.
So stealth has its virtues, but it also has some significant disadvantages. I'm not particularly stealthy.
So you wouldn't
I don't
do
find
it.
that. I'm not sure I would use that as the rubric for one conducting one's life. Every once in a while, it is helpful to let people draw inferences which may not be completely accurate. Let them wander off on their own. But there are other times when I'm convinced we're probably better off being a tad more honest and a tad less stealthy. And of course, if we can avoid outright deception, something that Jacob was not particularly good at, or at least he was easily inveigled into engaging in deceptive acts. If we're going to be deceptive, let's go into it with our eyes open. Having hot sauce helps. If you think about, here
Throw
we
hot
are,
sauce in
we
somebody's eyes,
see the
and
hot
then
sauce
you run away.
in front of us. That's correct.
Uh-huh.
And we can make an engaged decision about it.
You would make an engaged decision about the hot sauce,
I think
or you would.
Both the hot sauce and its likely denouement. What's going to happen after you engage in the act? What comes next? Or what's likely to come next? What are the potential unintended consequences that could happen?
Thinking like a lawyer.
Why not?
So you're thinking it's not enough to just be stealthy. You have to think about.
I think you have to think about the consequences
all
of
the
being
actions.
stealthy, because it's so easy to leap to a simple conclusion. If I do X, Y will happen. There is a possibility Y will happen, but A, B, C, and F may also occur. And if we haven't thought carefully about those other consequences, what we thought would be a minor trip to Las Vegas, where what will stay in Las Vegas will do so, may in fact not work out that way. So stealth may be a virtue, but only if done for the right purpose and with some careful forethought.
It sounds like maybe you would not end up running away because you would
I
be
don't
thinking
think
so much.
I would be thinking so much about it that I would be easily uncovered.
Or you would just never
Would be
get
discovered.
to,
Or I would never get around
Right, you
to
would
running
just-
away. That's correct.
You would still be thinking
I would
about running
still
away.
be thinking, you can see the decision tree getting sketched out.
Right. All right. That one. That one hurt.
You still feel it, yes, so do
it
I.
hurt my ears.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's only number 3.
I know.
If the foreshadowing is true, we know there is more in store for us that's even hotter.
I'm real nervous. Well, let's continue.
Let's continue.
All right. All right. So this one
What
is.
are we trying?
Melinda. So it's the same company. Creamy style ghost pepper wing sauce and condiment. So one is ghost pepper sauce, and this one is ghost pepper wing sauce.
I see. So we are still in the ghost mode.
Yes, ghost mode. I'm going to take a much smaller bite this time.
Yes. Taking large bites of this invites suffering.
Although, is that cheating?
The Jewish people have suffered enough. There's no point to do it deliberately. Others are more than willing to do that for us.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
It has a mild, stealthy approach. I assume the worst is yet to come.
Well, let me get this question out before it
Yes,
hurts too much.
before we collapse.
So, in this week's Torah portion, we learn about the births of Jacob's 13 children. Your son has 2 sons.
3.
3 sons.
3 sons.
Well, I only heard about 2 of them
Well, there's now 3.
because they give you special presents every time you see them. Can you tell us about the invisible dinosaur dragons?
About the dinosaur dragons.
This question is brought to you by your wife.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In order primarily to distract the 6-year-old and the 4-year-old, I created 6 invisible, very small dragons that look like dinosaurs,
Okay.
with incredible backstories that get more complex with each telling. What I discovered was that A, it could distract them,
Sure.
B, they are quite capable of inflicting great bodily harm on one another, but they won't do it if they are entranced by a story, particularly one where I can offer them potential story outcomes. You know, we're in the midst of a highly charged scenario, and I say, well, what do you think was going to happen next? You get to suggest the storyline.
Oh,
so then they get to suggest the storyline, and off we go. So it's really just a lot of fun. And there's nothing like myth to sustain a people. Even though we realize it's a myth, we also can understand that there are significant lessons that we can pull out of these myths. So the dragons can frequently engage in behavior which the boys can say, that wasn't very nice on their part, was it? I said, no. And the good news is that dragon number 5, Florian, realized it. And of course, I can't always remember the names that I have created. They do. Florian, wasn't Florian dragon number 3? You know, you're right, but he was in disguise, and then we're off again. Life is exciting. When you are 6 years old and 4 years old, life is simply a basket of choices to be made.
Yes.
Everything becomes new and fun.
Yeah. They don't get tasked with eating hot sauce.
Not that I know of. Not yet.
All right. So the camera turned off at some point. So we are going to be redoing the 5th and the 6th hot sauces.
Which, let me tell you, shows just how devoted we are to you.
Yeah, because they hurt really bad.
We are forewarned, not forearmed, I might say.
No,
simply forewarned.
We have no defense mechanisms.
We are walking directly into the teeth of this awful dragon.
The milk doesn't even help.
The milk does nothing.
All right. So let me get my questions back. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
All right, so we're going to go back to number 5, which is the Small Axe Peppers Habanero Mango Hot Sauce.
Ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. Piquant.
There are 2 dream and then very on. There are 2 dream sequences in this week's Torah portion. Jacob dreams of the angels going up and down the ladder, and Lavan is visited by God in a dream with a warning to not harm Jacob. What is the oddest dream that you've ever had?
I suspect, like many of you, I remember the same 1 or 2 dream sequences which I tend to suffer through on a repeated basis. You would think it would be far more fun to, at least when you wake up and remember a dream, to wake up and remember a dream you've never had before. Doesn't happen to me. Like the same one, repeating up and down, over and over again. Dream number 1 that I can count on. It is the beginning of exam week. We're getting ready to take our finals. I checked the schedule for when and where each of my final exams will take place, and discover, lo and behold, that I appear to have enrolled in a class that I've never attended, never opened the book, and the exam is now scheduled. And I'm going to have to take an exam for which I will be thoroughly, ludicrously unprepared. That's number 1. Number 2, a transport dream. I've managed to progress, and various modes of transit are usually involved, frequently an automobile.
Okay.
You know, you've taken a trip, you've made it to the parking lot, and there is a circular ramp that you go to the 3rd floor and park on the left. Now you need to get home.
Okay.
Well, you remember, I go to the 3rd floor, my car should be there, I take the circular, I turn right, take the circular ramp and drive home. You get to the 3rd floor, the parking lot looks totally different. Your car's nowhere in sight. By the time you find it, the garage, which is no longer a 3-story garage, it's now a 22-story, and so forth. The entire scene has metamorphosized, and you are now attempting to navigate a route about which you were never sure in the first place, and now you don't have a clue what's coming next. It's always great to wake up and say, at least I am released from this.
Yeah. So
I
even
can't
in
have the same two all the time.
even in your dreams, you seem to overthink things.
Well, yes, and you are, how do I do this? Where am I going to go?
Are you ready for the hot one?
Yes.
Again.
Again. For you, anything.
So this one is Tabasco brand, but it is called scorpion sauce.
Many of you may have read or mystery stories where the scorpion is the device by which the murder is carried out. Is this akin to us?
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh.
Somebody. All right.
The beginning is mild,
What
but we have learned.
What upcoming programs or events are you particularly excited about that you would like the viewers to attend?
They're both at Northern Hills Synagogue. One is our men's club sponsored December 24th Chinese dinner. We get Chinese food, kosher, in any number of varieties, and we're going to be inviting all of our endowment, legacy, and Fund for the Future donors to come as our guests.
Oh, I didn't know.
Because it is they who have made sure that the values and the core mission of and the vision of this organization can be carried forward for many years to come.
Mm-hmm.
What better way to celebrate than Chinese dinner?
Chinese food.
Chinese food.
Yeah.
They've been around for generations. All we're doing is following in some well-trodden footsteps. And yes, now I can feel the heat from this one. This is a delayed time bomb of a spice. It starts off very mild and sweet, and then before you know it, you are on fire.
I only chewed on one side of my mouth.
I did the same thing. I tried your technique. So one side,
It was really hurting.
Yes.
And the other side's fine. And
the other side's fine. We isolated the pain,
Oh.
sort of. Well, we really shouldn't suffer this way, but it's all for a great cause. The other event,
It's all for comedy.
it's all for comedy, is our February 1st, 2020 event. We're going to celebrate 60 years of cooking and food at Northern Hills Synagogue.
Yeah.
A true gastronomic delight. As a small congregation in which volunteers have crucial roles to play, and one which runs on its stomach, just like the Army. This, that got me. This is a synagogue that everyone enjoys cooking, they enjoy food, they enjoy having it prepared for them. We're going to celebrate by getting everyone involved in preparing recipes, either recipes that we've experienced and loved in the past, or brand new recipes that will be rolled out, inaugurated for the first time. Everyone will have a chance to cook and prepare, and then we get to sample the delights that we've just prepared.
Wait, yes. And we'll be honoring all of our volunteers who have helped us make Northern Hills a great place for eating and for being together
Being together, yes.
for the last 60 years.
I think it's really going to be a lot of fun.
I'm very excited.
Environment. We can bring some of that last hot sauce and maybe use it as part of the spice for the evening.
As long as I don't have to eat it.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure our insurance is complete and up to date.
People have to sign a waiver.
Yes, waivers. Oh, I love that. See, Rabbi Schapera is thinking like an attorney already. Yes, complete waiver. It wasn't as bad this time.
Yeah, I
everyone.
was
We had
thinking the
this
same thing.
once before. We're now sampling it a second time.
It might be this keeping it to one side.
Keeping it to
Maybe
one
that
side.
helped.
When you sample seriously scorching sauce, scorpion variety, from the McElhenney Tabasco Company, I advise eat on one side of your mouth.
Well, you've heard it here first. How to eat hot sauce in the best way possible from
That's right.
our synagogue president, Bill
An
Freedman.
educational seminar. Does this qualify for continuing professional education? You're all entitled to 1.0 credit hours.
Is this a dream?
This is a dream, yes. In your dreams, you get credit for this.
Yes. And the exam's today.
And the exam is today. What more could you ask?
Thank you so much for joining
Oh, you're
me
welcome.
on
What
this
fun.
week's edition, this month's edition of Hot Torah, where we have eaten really hot vegan chicken things and have talked about the Torah portion.
We have.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
See ya.